Hello everybody and welcome back to my studio, the Pottery Corner, down on the south coast of England near Chichester. I'm Sarah Amos. Welcome along again everybody, it's good to have you here. Today we're going to do part one of how to make a luminaire. So you'll have seen these items coming out of my kiln opening videos and the weeks in the studio vlogs that I've done before. And many of you have asked me to do a tutorial on how I made them, so I thought that I would do that. So this particular video is the equipment required and the first part of the make. There is a digital template available via my Etsy shop of this particular shape if you'd like to go over to my Etsy shop and have a look. The link to the Etsy shop's in the description below, and you can download the template very easily just by downloading it onto either a piece of paper and then transferring it onto a piece of card so that you can use the template over and over again. So this is what we're going to do today, and we'll jump right in with the equipment that we need. Okay, so some of the equipment that we're going to need. I am using a fine white stoneware clay which is called PB103. Now I use this clay for throwing, so it is probably the closest that I can get to porcelain without it being porcelain. So it's a very fine white bodied stoneware clay without very much grog in it, as little grog in it as I can get, because I do want the surface to be really nice and smooth. So that's what I'm using. Your sort of normal throwing clay with a white body would probably be your nearest equivalent. So I have rolled that out using a rolling pin. Well, actually I used a slab roller, cheating, using very thin guides. So when I've rolled out my slab, I've used these 5mm guides to get my slab down to a 5mm thickness. So I obviously did that on a cloth. So you need a cloth, you need 5mm guides and a rolling pin if you don't have access to a slab roller. And then I've used my template pieces, which, as I say, have a look, find the digital template. I need my glasses. You might need glasses, but I will need my glasses. So I have cut out the pieces that I need, and I'll just show them to you. This is obviously the front shield shape. There are two side bars to go on the sides. There is a base and a brace section. So there are 5 pieces in total. Other things that you're going to need are a patter of some description. I like this one, although I have just noticed that it's warped, but it's nice and flat, so I use this one a lot. A wooden spatula. This one is a kitchen implement. You don't have to buy them from a clay shop. In fact, they're cheaper if you go into charity shops or thrift shops or pound shops, my favourite shop, the pound shop, and buy your tools there. You can just repurpose them for clay. I have a mitre cutter, which looks like this. You don't need a mitre cutter, but it is easier if you have one. So if you have one handy, you'll need that. And then just normal clay tools, as in knives, a rubber kidney, a wooden modelling tool. So you'll need a serrated kidney for your scoring, and I sometimes use a metal kidney just for smoothing. In addition, you will need some cutters to cut the cut section, the skyline if you like, the starry sky. On this particular piece you can see that I have used different size stars and just holes, and those have been made by using star cutters. So these are just ordinary cake making star cutters, and they've got a push on them, so when you push them you push the centre out, so they're quite easy to use. So I've got those in 2 different sizes, large and small, and then I have a pot of circle makers. These are really useful, I use them a lot. They're jolly useful if you're making something and you want to hang it, because they have various size holes So this is a whole set, even down to the tiddly one, the tiny tiddly one. And they're really, really useful, and they just come in a set, in a little pot. So I shall be using those. Once we've actually got the make together, and the finishing bits and pieces that we need to do, you'll need a shore form of some description, whichever way you usually would grate your work to make it smoother. So a shore form, and then I also use a thinner gauged, this is actually a garlic grater. So again, you can sometimes pick things like this up in the pound shop. I use this little garlic grater for the finer grating that I need to do on my pieces. And then at the end we're going to need some scrubbies, and again these are just washing up scourers that I use in the pottery just for making my edges, and we'll go through that as we go. But when they're nice and, you know, yucky like this with holes in and they look like you really should throw them in the bin, that's when they're at their best. So I have a pot of those, various. And we are using this transfer from Ceramica Transfers. So I will put Ceramica Transfers website address down in the box below so that you can access this. And as you can see, it has 3 different skylines. So we have the London skyline at the top, we have the Paris skyline in the middle, and the New York skyline at the bottom. So this is a Ceramica underglaze transfer, and it comes like this in a sheet with those 3 skylines on. So when I'm making my luminaries, I make them in 3s because I've obviously got 3 transfers here to use. So that's what I'm using. So check out the Ceramica Transfers website. It's not very expensive. If you're buying them to come to the UK, obviously your most expensive part's going to be the postage. So my advice is make it worth your while by obviously buying more transfers whilst you're there. They're not the cheapest thing in the world, but they are very effective. So we'll be using that. Okay, so let's get started. I forgot to mention you'll need some slip with your normal clay body in. And I have a pot of my clay body scraps in here, where I keep my clay body scraps, and I shall need those for making sausages as we go to strengthen my joins. Okay, so as I say, I have already cut out the pieces that I need, and I have let them go to leather hard, so they are now not flopping about. They are quite stiff. You do need your slabs to be quite stiff for this project, because otherwise it won't hold itself up. So I've got my front piece. I'm just going to put that facing towards me. I'm going to use my miter tool to miter the edge of this piece on both sides. So I will do it with the miter cutter on one side. Now that just takes the corner off and gives you a miter section to join your next slab to. So if I show that to you in close up, so all I have done is taken off a 45-degree cut on this section to leave me a mitered section. So if I was to do that by using a knife instead of a miter cutter, I'm going to put my glasses on because I can't see, is to put my knife on the board at a 45-degree angle and just run the knife carefully. Try not to take too much off. Just run your knife at a 45-degree angle. There, turn it, put my knife in at a 45-degree angle. Basically what you're cutting off is a triangle down the edge of your piece. So when you've cut that off, that piece of clay is triangular. So I hope you can see that. So you're just mitering the actual cut. Okay, and then we get rid of that little bit. And then obviously I've got 2 sides. So on one of them, I need to do one side, and on the other one, I need to do the other side, so that when I come to joining it together, they're the right way round. So I do tend to work with my pieces the right way round. So I know that side is going to go here and this side is going to go here. So obviously I'm going to mitre this side so that it joins correctly. So I'll just do that, take that off. Okay, I do need to make sure that I have a straight section across the top. You can see there's just a little nibble out of there. So I'm just going to cut that straight. It won't matter, there is often a little bit of excess on the bottom. And again, I'm going to mitre those top sections on this side section, both sides. That's one, that is the other, okay? So we've mitered both sides of our frontispiece. We have mitered the sides that are going to join on to the frontispiece and the top, okay? The base piece I don't need at the moment, so I'm just going to move it out of the way on my board. I'm going to get my serrated kidney and I'm going to score ready for joining. Now, scoring, I always say to my students, it's probably the most important part, the actual joining of your sections. So do make sure that you've given them a good go. Don't be shy, we will be sorting out the edges and everything afterwards, but if we don't get this bit right, it will crack in the kiln. So make sure that you spend a bit of time making sure that you have adequate scoring and indeed adequate slip when we get there. So I'm just going to make sure that all the surfaces that I know I'm going to join together are scored, like so. Give it a really good rough up. I've got my slip in this pot, so I'm going to do one side at a time. So I'm going to heavily slip this section here. Make sure that I've got enough slip on it. I don't mind if it's oozing everywhere at the moment, that's going to help me later on. So I'm going to do this side first. Again, making sure that I've got lots of slip on there and I am not just giving it a very flimsy amount. I want to make sure that there's enough there for that to stick. Okay, so I'm going to do one at a time. So at this point, I'm going to turn this section up. I'm going to start at the top, at the point, and then I'm going to press one mitre against the other mitre as I go down here. Okay, so I'm pressing it from the outside here at the bottom, pressing that together. Okay, making sure that I have positively pushed the actual clay together, so it's not just floating there, it is actually joined. Okay, so I'm going to slip the section at the top and the side section here. Again, making sure that there's enough of it. Don't be shy. This doesn't cost you anything. This comes from all the little bits of rubbish that are left on the table that get thrown in the slip pot. So it's not that it's an expensive commodity, so don't be shy with it. I tell that to my students, so I feel like you're my students. You're my wider student community. Okay, so this one's done. So when I come to join this together, again, I'm going to make sure that those apex pieces join at the top. So I'm pushing those together into a point, and then I will start pushing the side on as I did the other side, making sure that that clay is touching and it's not just sat next to it, it's actually touching and has squished the slip on the inside. So I'm just going to move the camera so that you can see this slip here is squished. So I know that that clay is touching. Okay, so the next thing to do is to trim the ends. So obviously I've made sure that there's extra here, so I have some trimming space. And I want to now just cut that down so that it comes into line with this baseline here. So I'm cutting it at a slight angle because that is obviously where it is coming down to, so that that line follows this line here. And again on the other side, I'm just going to cut that down so that it meets that base section. I didn't quite get that straight at the bottom. I'm just going to take that bit there, okay? And then this base piece obviously fits onto there, as you can see. So I'm going to use our trusty serrated kidney again, give it a really, really good score. I do not want this to come apart. So I am scoring on the 3 sides that will be joined onto the 3 sides. And again, I'm scoring where I'm going to join. Give it a really, really good go. I'm going to cross hatch that. Make sure I'm absolutely sure that's going to stick. Get my trusty slip. Give it a good go. All the way over. Lovely. You're wise to spend time making sure you have enough slip. Okay, happy days. And then I'm just going to clean that bit away on my board. Pop that up against the base there. Make sure that it fits on either side. I can trim it, but I can't add a piece on. So make sure when you're pushing it on that you've got enough here on either side so that you have space to trim here and here. So just make sure that you've got enough of the base across the bottom. And again, I'm going to push this positive pressure, and I'm going to make sure that this sweep comes to the right point on this base, and again on this side to there. Make sure the base is flat, and then I can cut down using the wall to follow here. I'll move the camera for the next side. So as I come here, I'm cutting following the line of this so that I'm getting a continuous line there. Just cut that off. So that is that. Next thing to do is to make our little sausages. So as I say, I've got a pot of clippings. Just going to make myself a slightly tidier workstation. Get rid of that. Okay, so I've got clay that I can just make into sausages to strengthen my joins. So I'm just going to spend a minute making myself some thin, I don't want them to be thick, do them there. So I'm almost looking for practically spaghetti width like that. Oh, maybe slightly wider than spaghetti, but not much. I don't want oodles and oodles of clay. So I'm just going to make myself a few lengths of spaghetti. Okay, I'm just going to use a little bit more slip in these joins up the top, where the base joins, where the base is joined onto the sides, and where the sides are joined onto the front. And I'm going to take my sausages, I'm going to use them, pressing them in. I'm holding from the outside to stop that distorting, pressing the sausage into the corner onto that slip to reinforce my join. I'll make that look prettier in a minute once I've got them all in. And again, I'm just holding it from the outside so that it's not opening that joint up. Press this along the seam. Smoothing as I go. Right the way round. Quite important this, if you don't do it, the slab will very likely crack in the bisque firing. So it's important to do your sausages. The girls don't like doing the sausages, they try and get away without doing them, but they have to do them. And you can either use your finger, which is, you know, it's a free tool, that one. So I quite often just use my finger just to smooth the sausages in. You can feel what's going on, obviously, when you use your finger. So actually it's a very useful tool. Or you can use a wooden tool or a modelling tool of some description, whichever fits your hand. But as I say, a finger is often as useful a tool as any one you can buy. Okay, so I'm just going to spend a minute just smoothing that out. Nobody's going to see the inside of this, but us makers, we have to make it perfect. I couldn't make something where the inside looked messy, so I do always spend just a minute making sure that I'm happy with how that looks on, even though it's on the inside. Okay, so I'm just smoothing that round, making sure it's joined. Again, just holding the join from the outside, just to make sure I'm happy with that. At this point, this first part of the make, this piece is going to stay flat because I don't want to pick it up and flex it. Okay, so that's why I'm doing this make in two parts, because I want it to set up. So I won't be moving this at the moment. So the next thing I'm going to do is use my patter, and I am just going to give the edges, I move you down with me, I'm using the patter just to pat that back into shape. Okay, so it's got a little bit moved from where I've been doing the sausages, so I'm making sure I'm patting that right at the bottom where that mitre is, and then I'm just patting this shape back in where it has got distorted from putting the sausages in. Okay, I'm just going to do the base. That will also help your joins. Okay, and then I'm going to use my rubber kidney just to smooth the edge sections where the base has been put on, just to get rid of the line that's there on that side and on this side, just to smooth that out. So there's no join line here. Okay, right. And then the only other thing to do at this stage is put the brace bar on. So that goes in this section up here. I actually, as you can see, haven't cut that terribly well, so I am just going to alter that before we go on and just make that into a slightly nicer curve. Haven't quite cut that as well as I normally do, so we'll rectify that. And this is getting quite hard now, as you can see. I can hardly bend it, so I am just going to give it a spray with my spray. And then I'm going to put a star cutter through there. If you wanted to, you could make your luminaire into a lamp. You could put a hole in here for a cord, and so I'm just going to cut a star out of the brace carefully. Okay, I'm not going to worry too much that it's not cut right the way through, because once I've actually got it together I'll be able to go through with my scalpel. So I'm just going to leave that as it is, a bit messy, but it's nearly there. I can see where the line is, and then I'm just going to pop this onto where I want it, and then I'm just going to mark where I need to trim that to. As you can see, I can follow the line of the side piece down, so I can see where I need to trim that to, and then I'm just going to trim it. Just take that piece off, both sides. Okay, and then my brace piece will fit there. Okay, so it attaches flush to the side pieces like that. So I'm going to score those side pieces, and again, keep saying it, make sure you do a good job on this bit, quite important. And again on the shoulders where it's going to join, there and there, give it a good score. Okay, and then slip. Again, don't be too shy with it. I think that's one of my catchphrases, don't be too shy with it. I'm sure I say that quite a lot. I'm sure my regular viewers can tell me how many times I say don't be shy with it. Drop it in the comments, that would be funny. How many people notice that I say that quite a lot. Okay, so I'm going to go and stick this on. Again, I want to make sure that I have positive pressure. So I'm just going to make sure that's in the right place. I'm holding the wall on the outside to stop it pushing out and pushing that on. I'm not worried about that all that gungy slip at the moment. I want to make sure that I've got it in the right place. And then I need another little sausage, which of course I haven't made. Let's just quickly roll out a little sausage, and I'm going to go, and again you definitely can't see this one, I'm going underneath on this join line underneath. So what I want to have at the end of it is this bit here is flat, so there's no step in it. So I'm just going to join the sausage underneath, just pressing that on that join, just there underneath. And again, I'm going to use my finger just to smooth it. Again, you're never going to see it, but I know it's there. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm happy that that is there. And then I'm going to take my rubber kidney and just smooth off on the top. Just going to support from underneath. So I'm just smoothing that off so you can see that there is no step across that section where the brace is. All right. Right, and then we're almost at the stage where we're going to stop at this point. I am just going to give that a little paddle. Again, I'm just almost making sure that the shape that I want on this bend is where I want it to be at this stage, because it's going to be difficult to change that later. So I'm just making sure that this apex shape is where I want it to be, and I'm just going to run that down. Okay, so I'm happy with that. I've got my scalpel. We were talking about these before. These are sterile disposable scalpels. They're very sharp, but they don't cost much. So I actually find them cheaper than X-Acto knives. And I'm just going to take out the bit that the cutter didn't cut through out of there. Whilst it's still soft, it will be easier to do. Just chop that through. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. There we go. Okay, so stage 1 is getting to this point. Now, if your brace piece is softer than mine, you may need to support it from underneath with a block of clay so that it doesn't sag. Mine is nice and stiff and definitely leather hard, so I actually don't need that. But if your brace piece is sagging, just prop it up with a little ball of clay underneath to stop it from sinking. Now, I am going to cover this with plastic because I don't want it to dry out. I just want it to set up. So I am going to cover it with plastic, and I'll come back to it later on and we'll carry on with part 2. So for now, that's your lot. Part 1 of the Luminaire, and next time we'll come back and finish off the make and put the underglaze transfer on. So join me next time as we finish off this project, and I hope you've enjoyed the first part of the make. See you all on the next one. Bye for now.